I'm Daniel, the past life regressionist, and it's time to begin.
Lift off and the clock has started.
This is Timeless Spirituality. Enjoy Eternity Time. Hey everyone, welcome back to Timeless Spirituality. It is time for, sort of a new episode. It's a new episode for Timeless Spirituality, but this is an interview that I did on the Astrology Now podcast with one of my best friends, Christine Rodriguez, who's the host of the show. It is an interview where we go into past lives, astrology, karma. It was fun. I really enjoyed it. So I hope that you guys enjoy it too. And with all of that, before I launch into my shtick, I want to let you guys know that I'm going to be raising my prices come March for my one-on-one sessions. So I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. So you don't have to book for March, but my books are usually open about 2 months in advance. So you can book in April, but as long as you book before I raise those prices in March, you'll be locked in at the current rate. So I guess go ahead and book a session. With that, I have some new Expanse Method episodes that'll be coming out in the future where I'm going to be interviewing my clients about their experience with the Expanse Method, having some great success with it. I'm really, really enjoying it and really seeing how deep it goes. It's different than what I'm normally doing with the other methods. So I hope that you guys book that as well and go on an expansive journey. So with all that said, if you would like to book a regression with me to discover who and where you have been throughout time, you can reach me on Instagram at The Past Life Regressionist, or you can go ahead and book through my website at thepastliferegressionist.com. And now it's time to begin.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Astrology Now podcast. My name is Christine Rodriguez, and today we have a very special guest, Daniel, the past life regressionist. He's a dear friend of mine. He is an astrologer of sorts. He's absolutely studied astrology, and he's an author, a writer, a musician, a performer of sorts, and of course, a past life regressionist. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I feel like you are a jack of all trades when it comes to the arts.
A little bit. It's a good dilemma to have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, of course, as someone with a strong Venus such as yourself, it's definitely a good predicament to be in.
I like it.
Well, thank you so much for choosing to be on the podcast. I know this was really last minute. I am really grateful for a breath of fresh air and a different perspective of things. So I'm really happy that we could record today.
Ditto.
So we're going to be talking about past life regression and astrology, particularly Vedic sidereal astrology. And so what is your experience with Vedic astrology?
Christine Rodriguez of Astrology Now podcast.
Was I the introduction to Vedic astrology for you, or had you heard of it already? Oh, okay.
I mean, I'd heard of it, but I never had any experience with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I met you and you gave me a reading, it still blows my mind. I was talking to someone, was it 2 days ago, who knew you? And I was just saying how it's crazy how accurate your predictions are. I mean, you will tell me something months or years out, down to the day, and nail it. We don't need to get into details, but even like as we're recording this now in January of 2026, there were a few predictions you made for 2025 where you nailed it down to the day. So that's my testimonial.
Vedic astrology is an incredible tool. And I do feel like I give my close friends special treatment. Like you, Vanessa, the people in my close circle, I spend a lot of time looking at y'all's stuff. So I'm happy to help. Yeah, of course.
Well, I mean, also just what Vedic astrology showed me through the lens of Christine Rodriguez of Astrology Now podcast is how accurate it is and how intricate it is and how, I practice Western. And of course, I believe in the Western system. But just the level of detail that really goes into Vedic astrology just completely blew my mind, and still to this day.
It's very profound.
It's amazing, and I'm just stubborn and rigid,
Yeah.
and I haven't taken the leap yet to learn Vedic astrology, and maybe one day I'll let go of that rigid belief of, oh, gotta stay where I am. Maybe not. Maybe it has something to do with Saturn in my 10th. Maybe it's another placement. I don't know. Maybe,
Fixed
yeah,
energy.
yeah.
Fixed energy.
I do have a fixed rising sign, so
And a Venus and a Saturn. Yeah.
I'm the Aquarius rising in Vedic and Western. So I like to say all signs are created equal except for the Aquarius rising.
That's amazing. Yes. I feel like that's fair. I love Aquarius. And you're the Nishta also. I feel like the Nishta has a special gravitas.
Thank you.
Yes. So thank you so much for your just sharing about your experience with Vedic astrology so far. And I do just want to say, like, I do think that there is merit to all the systems. I think that that's why people continue to use them. And we're talking about Western astrology, we're talking about Vedic sidereal astrology, but there are other astrologies as well that people use around the world. So, the truth is one, but goes by many names. I think that there is a lot of truth out there and a lot of avenues to truth.
Mm-hmm.
So we are talking about karma and we're talking about past life regression. And I know that you use astrology when you're doing past life regression. And so can you speak to that a little bit about what past life regression is? And then we can talk a little bit more about the astrology.
So past life regression, just simply put, is venturing into the subconscious or superconscious mind using hypnosis to revisit a past life. So my job is to basically allow you to access that space or help you get to a place where you can access that space to recover the information. So the difference between a past life regression and a past life reading is a past life reading is when someone says to you, Christine, you were this, you were that, you were this, you were that. Whereas what I do is use hypnosis to get you to the place where you were having the experience yourself and you tell me what you're experiencing. So at no point am I ever saying to you, you were this, you were that, you were this, you were that. I'm just asking questions. So it's cool because you don't have to trust someone else to give you accurate information because you have the experience yourself. And I've been doing this for a decade now, and I'm still just endlessly fascinated by the process. And it's just so cool. So and there's the astrology part, which I started to incorporate about 4 years into my practice. And it helped me ask the right questions because sometimes people aren't aware of their shadows or their wounds. So without knowing what to ask, I don't always know how to guide. So of course I can go based off of intuition, but sometimes having that roadmap in front of me does help. But with that also comes the years of learning that nothing is an absolute. So I can never treat a natal chart as concrete proof of who someone is and make assumptions about who they are. So I always like to look at the higher and lower octave and ask the question. For example, there is a particular placement where I always say to someone, are you still a people pleaser or is that something of the past? Because, when you look at these things, it's all pattern recognition. You see that there is a people pleasing component, but we can't make the assumption about how that is operating in that person's life or chart now. So I think it's always best to ask questions. That's where it's like we incorporate philosophy and Socrates to just asking and inquiring as opposed to assuming.
That is extremely interesting. And so a few things come to mind. First of all, with coaching, something that I've learned throughout my process with social work and with coaching is that we always want to ask questions so that the answers come from within. And I think that that practice in and of itself can be so profound.
Mm-hmm.
And so kind of applying that to past life regression. And I've done past life regressions with you, to be completely honest with you, because the hypnosis does go so deep. Some I don't quite remember, but you do ask a lot of questions. Isn't it a lot of prompting and a lot of guiding?
Well, when you say prompting, what do you mean?
When I say prompting, from what I remember, under hypnosis, I would see something or there would be some type of item or visual, and then you would ask me questions about where I was or the item to almost deepen the experience and bring me further into that landscape.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, in that respect, it's just getting you more immersed in the space that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a huge spectacle. Before I had my first past life regression, I remember coming out of it. It was also one of the most profound experiences of my life. But I said to the regressionist, that was it. That was it. Because I was expecting, there to be fireworks in the room and her doing a seance, even though I've never participated in one before. just things of that nature where I was just expecting something so grand. But hypnosis and past life regression, at least the hypnotic part of past life regression, it's just about getting you out of your own way and having you not think about the laundry or doing your dishes. Because once we get that out of the way, that's when all this information can really flow through you. It's something you always have access to. So when I ask you about that object, I'm just still getting you into that space where you're not thinking about the laundry and you're thinking about that space. You're thinking about the temperature of that space that you're in. You're thinking about any smells that you might be encountering or how you're feeling. How does your body feel? How do your hands look? Because that helps push everything else out of the way.
Hmm. And so for you as as a regressionist, do you find that that practice is almost helping us step into the memory further and ground ourselves into that moment in time? I know I'm kind of going off topic, but I'm just curious about the mechanism.
Yeah. Simply put, yeah. I think it does ground us more into that, at least in that moment, because then, of course, we're going to get into the mechanics of time if we really think about it. And is it the past that we're really traveling to? As the last decade has gone on, I don't really view it as past anymore. I view it as other life because I don't think the time is linear. I just don't. I can only perceive it that way, such as watching the rising of the sun in the east and the setting in the west every day. To me, that's an indication of the passage of time. But I'm also a dumb human, and I can only perceive linear at this point. But are we really grounding into another time, or is it just another place or another life that is stacked on top of us? And having access to something in that same space and place, if that makes sense.
It does.
So
It makes sense. Go ahead.
yeah, so I think that information is readily available to us, but I also think that sometimes it's not all of it because it may not be beneficial for us to be able to access everything. Because once you go through the process of past life regression, there's usually a thread. Whether it be one life that you're seeing or multiple lives, there is a thread, even though with multiple, it may be vastly different, the circumstances that you find yourself in, but there's a common theme. And when it comes to the karmic component of it, I often wonder, do we maybe just not see some lives because we've already resolved that karma? And that's something that we no longer need to look at. Could it have been something horrific and we just don't need to see it because it's not a part of us now? Could it have been something that was amazing and we just don't need to see it because that's already been balanced or resolved in one form or another? So I think that there is still a system in place that dictates what it is that we can see. And I'm not that system. I think it's something that is outside of us. It could be your higher self, that bigger part of you that exists in the collective consciousness or superconscious. It could be your guides. It could be God. It could be the universe. It could be creator, whatever you want to label it, but just something that is of a nature outside of ourselves that knows like, hey, Christine, you've already checked that one off. You don't need to look at that right now. And with that, I do believe that in a natal chart, it is showing a blueprint of a lot of our other lives and what we've done and what we still have to learn and how we're here to grow. But I don't think it's the totality of all of those things. And at the same time, I also believe that there are gimme planets, I guess you could call it, where it's not something you've necessarily earned, but where a talent may be thrown into the mix because that's what you need to help you really learn and grow and resolve some of those other karmic issues that you may have encountered in other lives. And okay, here's that little boost that we're going to give you. And also maybe we're going to balance it out with weighing you down a little bit more over here. But these other 10 placements, those were earned, whether it be from a perceived positive action or a perceived negative action. And I say perceived because then also we have to ask ourselves, is there a universal standard of morality? Because I think we look at karma as being on a scale of negative and positive. But is it? Or is that just our perception of it? So I think it's always important to not operate in absolutes with these because we don't know. I think we just have our belief and ultimately our faith in the system.
Very interesting. There are multiple directions to take this. I know that we planned specifically on talking about karma and astrology and past life regression, so I'm going to try to stay on topic, but it's all extremely thought-provoking and very interesting. And talking about this positive or negative karma, I would say that the majority of people and how they categorize it as a human and our ego as people who do perceive things as good or bad would label bad karma, I'm doing air quotes for those on the podcast, bad karma as something that makes us suffer and something that challenges us and leads to hardship. Whereas good karma is things that come with ease, things that come with grace, things that bring us joy. I would say that as humans, that's how we categorize good and bad. I'm not necessarily saying that's the end all be all of like overall truth, right? I think that karma and the mechanism of karma is neutral because it's just trying to find balance.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that being said, when I'm looking at a birth chart, when I see planets that are highly afflicted without any support, planets that are debilitated, planets that are afflicted in dastana houses, there are multiple ways that planets can be afflicted in a birth chart. It always brings about, and this was something I got from my first teacher, Matab, because he was very, very spiritual, yoga practitioner, opened one of the most successful yoga studios in Austin at the time. But he would talk a lot about past lives and how we come to have our birth chart as it is today. And of course, as you mentioned, it's just speculation. We can't really know for sure if this is what happened in a previous life, but we can speculate based on the hardships that we're having in this lifetime. So if someone has relational afflictions with Venus, the seventh house, things with sex and sexuality, we may speculate that there was some type of discrepancy in previous lifetimes where maybe we didn't treat partners well, we didn't operate fairly, we took advantage of people. It could be multiple things.
Mm-hmm. I'd be inclined to agree with you on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hearing what you said, though, I thought was really fascinating in regards to seeing past lives that perhaps we haven't reconciled karma around. Because is it possible that in past lives, maybe there wasn't a discrepancy or anything unethical, but we're still working on relational karma in general from, 50 lives back or whatever. So,
well, when you say 50 lives back, then I think we're also looking at the linear nature there, right?
yeah. And I mean, even in Vedic philosophy, there are multiple different types of karma. And so it's like we have a karma that we're playing out in this lifetime, and then we have accumulated karma that we kind of carry with us.
Mm-hmm.
So we literally can be carrying karma from 50 lives back.
So in Vedic philosophy, when you look at a natal chart right now, is that an indication of the karma from your most recent life? Or is it all of the karma from all of your lives that you're working on or somewhere in between?
The way that I was taught was that in our life, the karma that we experience in our life, it's just what we are intended to work through.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be like from our previous lifetime directly, but it could also be again from like 30 lifetimes ago. It's just this is the mathematical equation that resulted in this lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I learned it from a spiritual perspective from a rishi. It didn't involve astrology. But then applying the same logic with astrology is that our birth chart, our natal birth chart is going to be a reflection of that mathematical equation for this life.
I often wonder if sometimes our birth charts, when we come in, maybe there's a main goal that we come in with, like this is what we specifically want to work on in this life. And then you get, that snapshot of the moment that you're born that really supports that. But then you have all these other planets there. And it's like, whoa, what are they, just chop liver? So maybe at that point, you just are grabbing from the bag of karma spread across all your lives. Like, okay, well, the chart supports this one, so we're going to throw this one in right now because you did have that, and this will not support your main goal, but maybe you can cross this minor one off the list right now. Or, because you got Venus right here, even though you weren't intending for it, but it was perfect for your main goal. So yeah, we're going to throw in this bit of karma and, pull from that pile and so on and so forth. So if it ends up becoming imperfect, I guess you could say, and then having to go to the backlog to match
Mm-hmm.
to make it more whole.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, I think that it's so complex, and I think it's also really complicated to sort through because there's no tangible way to like measure or test,
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, again, I think that it's a lot of speculation. So it's definitely interesting to contemplate, but kind of bringing in the past life regression piece too, though, with that being said, and operating under this assumption that we have karma, and then we have baggage. We have this other karma that we're carrying with us from previous lifetimes. When we are doing past life regression, we may not, and this is a question for you, we may not be necessarily tapping into something that is super present, super relevant, like from this lifetime or our previous lifetime, but it could be something that's like super ancient. Have you found that to be the case, or is it more so like this lifetime relevance?
I've found it to be more relevant to this life because then it's just kind of a novelty act at that point. If you're just tapping into something that has absolutely nothing to do with what you're experiencing right now. I mean, it's not to say that it doesn't happen, but I always see that thread and that it's here to bolster what it is you're working on now. Now, of course, I'm always open to the possibility that this is all just a manifestation of the subconscious or a projection of the subconscious in order for us to understand something we're working on and have a more tangible grasp of it to say, okay, it's not just this life, but we're going to show you a little bit separated from it. And maybe it's going to be in the 1400s. But that way, if you have a little bit of separation, you can look at it in a more objective fashion, and then you can use that to support what's going on in the here and now. So like, for example, for me, as you and I have talked about in Vedic astrology, I have my Saturn in the 10th house. Now, in my own past life regressions, I have seen lives where I've been in positions of power, but I haven't used it responsibly. In one life in particular that I've seen many times, power was given to me at a young age, and I wasn't ready for it. And I acted, I mean, not like the, Joffrey in Game of Thrones, but I was just an arrogant prick. And I wasn't thinking about everyone else. So had I been more seasoned, maybe I would have been a better leader. But power was just given to me. So in this lifetime right now, I'm approaching 40. And I feel like sometimes it takes me longer to get to that point than it gets to everyone else. And what I've noticed is I have this thing that I like to call the Icarus factor. Icarus, the one who flew too close to the sun and the wings burned off, right? Where I can get noticed. I know how to get to a place, but I seem to squander the opportunity, not because I'm an idiot, but because I'm not ready. I'm just not ready for it yet. I haven't done what is necessary to earn that recognition. So it's like my wings get clipped. And I feel like until I go through all the steps, I'm not rewarded. And I don't get to be on that playing field that I may have leapfrogged to 5 or 10 years ahead of time or 15 years ahead of time. So what that's conditioned me to do, especially over the last 5 years or so, even though I've been aware of this for a very long time, it makes me say, that's too high. I haven't done A, B, and C in order to earn G. I have to go through all of the steps. But once that comes, I feel much more prepared and like I'm on solid ground. So I look back at those events and circumstances where I leapfrogged. I wouldn't have known what to do with myself at the time. I wouldn't have been ready. I just would not have been prepared. So, I mean, a good example of that is when I was 24, I started songwriting. Actually, I was 23 at the time when this thing happened. And I had started songwriting within a year. I thought I was really good. I just had beginner's luck, I guess you could say, but I knew how to get noticed. And I ended up working up to someone who was very prolific, incredibly prolific. And I got their attention, but I wasn't ready yet. So after that, I went and took years of songwriting courses. I did school for such a long time to get the process down. And now I understand how to write a song. Now I know the mechanics of writing a song because there is a process. In story structure, there is a process. And with that, same thing with writing. I thought I had, that good intuition about how to tell a story. And I think that that does definitely factor in, but there is a process and a structure. And just like you and I have talked about, there is a script that I just recently wrote with a buddy of mine. And it's finally getting recognition. I had spent over a decade just sending out other scripts. But when I started, I thought I was the best. And I wasn't. So I took years of TV writing courses, years of novel writing courses, and understanding the structure and the process, and finally getting to this point where years down the road, I'm ready. I feel ready now. I feel that I can step into that role and know there is a structure in place and I know what to do with it and not squander the opportunity. Now,
Very interesting.
I could be very naive and still be about 5 or 10 years off. And Saturn may come back in and say, no, Mr. Daniel, you still have not learned F through Y. And you still got to get to Z. Period.
Yeah, it's possible. Do you mind if I bring some astrology into it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just think it's interesting hearing you speak about how you've been shown this in your past lives. So this is something that you've come to understand through the practice of past life regression, self-reflection, all of that. But then we can also see it clearly outlined in the astrology. And so I just think it's so interesting how with these different modalities, we can still ultimately come to similar conclusions because your Saturn is in the 10th and it can show delays with your career, things taking more time. It's also in Scorpio, which can show like slower evolution while also indicating leadership, which is interesting because Saturn is the planet of karma. And you're saying in your past lives, you were given responsibility early and you didn't necessarily know what to do with it. So I could see that Saturn being indicative of that. But then also this stellium that you have in Aries, where it's like Aries can be very quick and impulsive. And something that I love about Aries, it's like one of my favorite qualities, is that they are so self-confident that they can try anything. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be successful, but they'll be like, oh, I totally have that. I can do that. I've never been snowboarding before. I can totally go snowboarding, whatever. Like it has that type of mentality where it can just kind of like have self-faith to go forward and try new things.
That sounds like me about 25 years ago.
But it can also be very impulsive, quick to start, quick to stop. There can be a lot of humility built throughout life because of these experiences where they have a ton of self-confidence and they realize maybe it's unwarranted. Maybe they should have had a little bit less confidence, a little bit more humility. So it is definitely fascinating to hear you speak. But the other thing that I want to say, and we've talked about this on the Bharani interview, which we'll post eventually when I start getting to the interview series for the Nakshatras, which, by the way, for those of you listening, I have the Nakshatra series going. At the same time that I'm working on that, I'm also working on interviews. So I have a bunch of Nakshatra interviews for you all that I haven't posted yet. So that's something to look forward to. Daniel is one of the interviewees. But you have Moon and Sun in the Nakshatra of Bharani. And when I was doing research, I was noticing this correlation to people who do hypnosis. And I think that that is so interesting. And I'm curious if you think that this is a past life thing, if you think in previous lifetimes you did hypnosis perhaps in the way that you're doing now or in a different way.
I have yet to uncover that one.
Interesting. Maybe you haven't uncovered it because, like you said, it's just not helpful for you in this life. Maybe it's not something that's like super needed.
Yeah. I mean, I think that could very well just be the case is I'm already doing it and I have confidence in what I'm doing. I also know that I know what I don't know. And I don't know how it would help me at this point to see that other than build up my ego. Say, oh, I was doing this back then. Oh, I hypnotized this person. I just don't see how it'd be beneficial at this point. Again, I don't know the mechanics of how this whole thing works, and I could be proven wrong at some point. The next regression I have for myself could be the one where I see, oh yeah, you were a hypnotist and you abused your power. It's a good thing that you haven't been doing that, because I do approach this with a lot of responsibility. I don't want to stray outside the lines because it is something that is not to be taken lightly. And especially when I'm working with people in their belief systems, because the process that I facilitate for them has the ability to radically alter their belief systems. So yeah, maybe if I start coloring outside the lines, then I'll see a life where that was the case. I don't know.
Have you seen previous lifetimes where you've done astrology?
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
What's that about?
It's, I think that a lot of us who do practice this have done it before. And we have looked up at the stars for many nights and many months and years on end. And we have a natural connection with them because we've spent lifetimes looking at them. We've spent lifetimes learning the process. Now, for someone like you, who, I mean, still, I'm not just saying this because you're one of my best friends. You are one of the most gifted astrologers that I know. In the intuitive ability that you have to tap in to someone's chart or to look at the transits going on and accurately predict what is happening on a worldwide level, to me, that's not just intuition. I see that as you tapping into wisdom from knowledge that you've accumulated in other lives. I don't know where, I don't know, in a win with quotes around it, but I don't think that you just sat down in your first astrology course in this lifetime and that's where all that information came from.
So I have to share this. So first of all, that's so generous of you. And I honestly feel like astrology as a tool is probably very new for me in my lifetime sequence. Like there are astrologers that I meet where it is so clear that they've been doing it deeply for lifetimes, like lifetimes. So I still feel like a baby. I still feel very new at it. And I feel really grateful for your very kind words. Thank you.
Wait, what's that, Copernicus? Wait, you want me to do a regression with Christine to see what comes through so she can see these other lives, the many lifetimes that she's been an astrologer?
Well, I saw the one with you.
No, Copernicus, I wasn't you. No.
Oh my God. You are so funny. So something else to know about Daniel is that he's a comedian by heart, by nature. But I will do another past life regression with you. I think it's time. The last time I did one with you was several years ago at this point.
It's been about 5 years, I think. Maybe even 6 years at this point.
We're up for another one.
Yeah, it's good back in good old COVID times.
Yeah, it was so intense. That last regression that I did with you was so intense. And I don't want to say this because I don't want to dissuade anyone from doing it, because the first regression that I did with you was fine. But the second one, because I was going through so much intensity and the lives that I saw were so intense, I was like throwing up in the park. I was like, after we finished our regression, I like drove to the park to like process things, and I was like ill. Like it was such a profound, deep experience, very helpful. But I do want to share this because I know that a lot of people will resonate with me. And I've had students like this in the coaching program, or people that I've taught astrology to or worked with, where when they sit down, it just comes so naturally. And the things that they can apply the astrology to is extremely profound. And they have this very detailed eye. I'm always so impressed. This last round that I did with the coaching, there were some women in that program who they were all talented. Like every single one of them had obviously done this before. It clearly was not their first rodeo. And it's always really fascinating to watch it unfold before your eyes, or maybe they've never taken a training before and they're just like out of the starting gate. Like it's incredible. But I did have my own experience in my first astrology training. I will never forget. We could choose between sitting down or sitting in a chair. And I've always historically chosen to sit on the floor. So I'm like sitting on the floor with my birth chart. And I had not been trained on what the houses were, what the planets were. I saw a planet in my chart and I thought to myself, this means I'm going to get married later in life. It was just this immediate zing of knowledge where I was like, this indicates a late marriage. And it does. It indicates a lot of matters associated to relationship and partnership and marriage and all of that. But I'll never forget just like the immediate like recognition. And the other thing is that I had studied astrology all of my life, kind of. I guess my mom introduced me to astrology when I was young, tropical astrology. My first therapist realized that I was really interested in it. So she started bringing tropical astrology books to session to like bond with me. And I would guess people's birthdays in high school. And it was always something that I was really interested in. I like created a zodiac wheel on my wall, but in high school.
Yeah, as most children do.
Really?
No.
Oh, yeah. I took time to like print out the symbols and I like had them on my wall, and like I didn't even study astrology officially yet. But there was always something that felt like it was missing. And then I met my first Vedic teacher and it was like, this is it. This is the one. This is what I'm supposed to be doing.
The Vedic part?
Correct.
Gotcha.
As soon as I saw my Vedic chart, I was like, this is accurate. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. It's different for everyone. I'm not saying that because that's my truth, that's everyone's truth. But I saw the Vedic birth chart and I was like, this is 100% what I'm supposed to be doing. But I had a few of those moments studying where I would see something in the chart and I just knew that that's what it was going to indicate. It was, it was really interesting. And I think it's a past life thing. I think that when people have studied Vedic astrology and astrology in general in previous lifetimes, that when they come into this life, it's like this knowledge storage bank. You know, you may not remember everything right away, but it feels super familiar. It comes super naturally. again, you can apply it to the external world very quickly. And I know that I'm not alone in it because I've seen it happen so many times with my students, which is super cool.
Yeah, no rebuttal. That's cool.
No, yeah, I'm sorry. I just had to share that.
I think
And
it's more than one life that you've been an astrologer, but
I
yeah.
don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I
Okay, so
saw
you're
that
just
love
a
life.
savant then, that's it? You're just naturally an amazing astrologer and you just looking at a planet and knowing that that's going to indicate.
I've had great teachers for sure.
Wait,
Yeah.
wait, but didn't you say you just looked at it and you knew?
I mean, yeah, but don't we have that with a lot, like with partners? Like sometimes you see someone and you just know.
Yeah, but then
Let's get into
how
relationships.
do you
Let's talk
know?
about
That's
relationships.
the deeper question. Because have you encountered that person or that soul in many other lifetimes?
Let's talk about really quickly, and then I want to give you more airtime. I'm so sorry I have to talk about this. Venus and K2. I did a study when I was younger. If you look at the YouTube video, I look like a baby. It's actually very sweet. If you want to go back into my YouTube archives, it's like one of my first videos. I do case studies with people who have been together for a long time. And you see Venus and K2 combinations over and over and over and over. I'm not saying you have to have that for compatibility, but I'm saying it's extremely common in long lasting relationships. K2, the south node, is in the same sign as their partner's Venus. It could also be moon or sun, but Venus and K2 I see all the time. K2 represents past life connections. Venus is relationships and romance. That's fascinating.
Yeah,
So, as a past life regressionist, you haven't done couples past life regressions, have you?
not at the same time,
Okay.
but I've done sessions with couples separately. And yeah, and
Do
yes,
they tend to have relational karma in their charts together?
I don't know to be honest with you because I've never actually looked at the synastry.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just more focused on the person,
Hmm.
but there is overlap, where they will see their partner in another life and they were together or they killed them or that they were brother and sister. But, I think we switch roles. I mean, oftentimes they are together and there are very happy lifetimes and happy moments.
Hmm.
I mean, that is a reoccurring theme, yeah, with couples. And it's just, there is something so beautiful for me as a past life regressionist to see the person that I'm regressing, seeing their love in another life and seeing that person that they're with now, seeing that they were together and just seeing that elation and joy that just comes to the surface for them of, wow, I love them so much. They've been with me and just how supportive that can be.
That is so interesting. What if it is a negative life? Like, what if it is one of the more violent ones? How does that go?
Well, everything's a balancing act for all the good ones you have. I'm not saying
Yeah.
it, yeah, that it's been 50-50.
Hmm.
But sometimes it can kind of clarify why you have such disdain for someone.
Hmm.
Why when they do this thing, it pisses you off so much,
Hmm.
or why you feel that they're suffocating you.
Hmm.
They may have actually suffocated you.
Interesting.
Or what was one I heard recently? Like, I've been with this person for so long. I love them so much. I know them to their core. But when I look into their eyes, I see something else that I know is not them, but it's, and then what do you see? Well, they had some moments they weren't quite as great in other lives where that person,
Goosebumps.
look, I think that everyone is capable of everything. I think some people are just more inclined in certain lifetimes to act on whatever that thing may be, and others are just like, oh, I don't want to touch that with 10-foot pole. But I think humans at our core are pretty much capable of anything. But it's that recognition of, well, that happened. Maybe we've worked on that, but it's just, but that person did that to me in another life. But I think where past life regression can also help in those moments is then you're able to separate it because then it's a little more tangible where you understand that when I look into their eyes right now, I can just see all the beauty of who they are now and that feeling I get. I can now identify it with an action that they had in another life.
Wow. That is so profound to me. That is absolutely mind blowing. Do you have an example?
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
Where it was
Okay.
like to play that out a little more, that person's partner killed them in another life.
Okay.
And there was a look in their eye where
Yeah.
it's because I
It's a
think
reverberation through time.
exactly, even though it's not the same eyes,
Yep.
I think the eyes are the gateway to the soul. So it's like when you look into someone's eyes, you can see very deep into them
Very
and
interesting.
have that recognition. Because I think some people are more intuitively gifted than others, and they can pick up on certain things other people can't pick up on.
Hmm.
So that's what that is. Like, so, but for someone like me also, just to kind of go back to my past lives and times where I believe I've been persecuted for speaking out. I had a fear of coming out and talking about past lives, before I started going public with it. I had this unnatural fear that I was going to be killed for talking about these things. This was, in the 21st century. And then after seeing those lives, I realized how ridiculous it was. And it was finally working with a coach, and they'd even said to me, what's the worst thing that can happen if you go out and speak about these things? I said, I could be killed for it. I said, yeah, that's the worst thing that could happen. And there was that aha moment, like, oh yeah, that is the worst thing. But also from seeing those lives, whenever that feeling would come up in me, and still comes up at a certain point, it's not something I've completely overcome. I just am able to say, that was then. The feeling that's coming up in me, which feels completely out of whack right now, that feeling of I'm going to be killed if I say this, because I most likely have been killed in other lives where the circumstances were different. So then I'm able to say, that was then, this is now. Let me go say what I need to say.
Yeah.
So it's more
Well,
tangible.
and this kind of goes back to the idea of the witch wound. I think that's a
Yeah.
really common concept that's shared about online. And so, for those of you who aren't aware of what the witch wound is, it's where you have a lot of natural intuition, you have a lot of natural spiritual prowess or power, and you're afraid to use it. It's almost like you're hiding these gifts, or you're afraid to share with your families and friends about these practices that you have. Perhaps in previous lifetimes, you were persecuted or burned at the stake or suffered repercussions for these spiritual gifts. Do you feel like I summarized that fairly?
Yeah. I mean, just to piggyback on that also, it's why you may be afraid to share it with friends or families, because friends or family may have turned you in another life. And you have that memory of trusting the wrong person.
Yeah.
And you remember what happened as a result of that. So,
Mhm.
I mean, I work with a lot of people who have that witch wound, and it's helping them put aside that persecution fear
Mhm.
and saying that that was at another time, another place.
Mhm.
We don't need to worry about that right now. The trajectory that we're on, everything is okay at this point. I'm not saying that that will never become, I mean, I work with the past more, in quotes, not so much the
Mhm.
future. So I'm not going to say that you will never be persecuted for these things, but
Mhm.
I think we're okay at this point in,
Mhm.
in 2026.
Mhm.
I think we're okay. I think I can go and talk about reincarnation and past lives and not be worried about being labeled a witch. I think I can talk about the earth being round and only being persecuted by some people online and not have my safety threatened as a result of it. I also think that that one was settled a couple hundred years ago, but that's a talk for another day.
Interesting.
Maybe it's
Very,
just
very
me
interesting.
remembering when I was, killed for talking about the earth being round. Imagine that.
Golly. But like it's really it changes the context for me and hopefully for people listening of how we can approach our challenges, shortcomings, self-doubt when we feel limitations come up, when we feel some type of limitation of the self. Like I'm afraid to proceed with this dream because I am afraid of judgment. Where is that coming from? Is that something that was constructed in this life? Is that something that was constructed in previous lifetimes? And is it a wound?
With that, I would default to the Sherlock Holmes quote. Once you've eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. So, with what you just said right now, if you go through everything in your mind, racking your brain of, did this come from something in this life? And you can't come up with anything, well, then
Right.
the improbable truth would be that it comes from another life. But you've eliminated every reasonable possibility for it being something in this life, but also can't both coexist at the same time. Can
Mhm.
it be patterns that are playing themselves out again in this life, but have their roots in other lives, but they had to rear their head in this life in order for you to work on them?
Totally. And that's actually the note that I just took because I think that's the way we see it a lot, right? It's like using relationship as an example because it is such an easy example is if you did treat people unfairly in previous lifetimes, you're going to have relational karma in this life. That's going to show up with relational hardship and relational strife. That's just kind of the way that it works, right?
I don't know. Like with that one, I wouldn't be so quick to label it as such because I don't know if it's necessarily eye for an eye, that you did this in another life and then the ramifications of that action are coming back. I think it's entirely possible that sometimes you may be repeating the actions until you break them yourself. Such as, a lot of people talk about victim perpetrator, where if someone kills you in a past life, then you're going to kill them in this life or another life to balance out that karma. Or if someone abuses you in one life, then you will step into the role of abuser. Where I think it's entirely possible that the person who is the abused may never become the abuser, but they need to learn how to stand up for themselves and not be abused anymore, to learn how to walk away, to find that power inside. And then the lesson also for that abuser is maybe still to break that cycle. So they will continue abusing that person throughout multiple lives until they have that epiphany moment of, I need to stop doing this.
Well, and that's the neutrality piece, right? It's like when we step into a space of self-awareness, and I think it's almost impossible not to create karma. Like it's virtually impossible not to create karma. And there are people who are highly, highly evolved. There are enlightened beings, but for the majority of us, as we move throughout life, we're creating karma. But it's like, is it possible that more often than not, we are in this space of higher self trying to operate with integrity and intelligence and self-control and not necessarily be operating from the program that we stepped into the world with karmically?
Idealistically, I'd like to believe so.
Idealistically, extremely challenging. Yeah.
But it's like you had even said before with the suffering component and the perception of it being negative. I agree with you. As a human, I agree with you. Now, as someone who is a firm believer in God and a higher power, I also cannot and will not say that those things are not necessary or meaningful. I know just
so important. I wanted to touch on this. Go ahead.
So this is one that may rub people the wrong way right now. And don't blame Christine for it. Blame me for it if you don't
I have no idea what you're about to say. I'm so scared.
Blame me if you don't understand what I'm saying, but hear me out first. A lot of people in our space, in the spiritual space, will jump online when something happens around the world, an atrocity or something like that, and say something that I'm going to label right now as, you're an idiot for saying this when children are murdered, and say, oh, well, they just came here to teach us something.
Oh
they just can't. That was what they signed up for. Here's what I say to that. Maybe, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't say that it was wrong and that it shouldn't be happening. We need to do everything in our power to stop that from happening. I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm going to interfere with God's plan because I don't know what it is. But when something horrific happens, we as humans need to say that is wrong and we need to stop it. So yes, maybe they did sign up for that because maybe that will be our catalyst to finally stand up and say that is wrong. But that doesn't mean we should just excuse horrible things that happen as, well, that was what they signed up for. That was their purpose. We need to say, we can do better. Mm-hmm. We should stop that. We shouldn't say for that person who's living on the streets, well, they chose to be homeless or unhoused in this life. Or words, whatever. Mm-hmm. Or we should say, maybe we should do everything in our power to get them off the streets and to help them. And that maybe that's our lesson, was to help them and not to say, well, that's what they chose, because it's hard for us to look at an injustice happening or an atrocity. And it's easier for people to excuse it away as, well, that's just what they signed up for.
Totally. And, we also have collective karma. There are so many different types of karma. It's like we have our individual karma, but then we also have karma as a collective. And so it is our responsibility to alleviate suffering for other people as well. And I think about this all the time. When we help create a better world for other people and we fight for injustices, we're ultimately fighting for ourselves, because we have no idea who we're coming into this world as next life. We could be one of those people. And it's like, ultimately, we're all one,
you nailed
right?
it.
But that's the whole concept, right? It's like, we're all one. We're all one community. We're all one breathing entity. And so it's like, as we fight on behalf of others, we're ultimately fighting on behalf of ourselves. And I truly believe in that. I believe in that for animals too. Mm-hmm. It's just ultimately creating less suffering.
So I agree full-heartedly with what you just said. And I would encourage everyone to be selfish right now. So what I mean by that is if you see something bad happening in another place in the world, I would speak up about it in whatever. I don't think you need to be out there being a social justice warrior, but I think just simply acknowledging it, because let's just say if you do something to another place of the world and hurt it, what if you end up being in that very place that you destroyed? And when you could have made different choices, that when you lived in that place in that next life, it wasn't torn to shreds. Like everything was still put together. I am a firm believer in duality and non-duality. I think that both can exist at the same time. So if non-duality is the way, but the way we see the world is through a dualistic lens, what if we are all one and all 8 billion people on the world right now are just us? But since time is probably not linear, that you, Christine, and me, Daniel, we are ultimately the same. I just haven't had your experience yet and you haven't had mine.
I
Or
think
maybe
about this
I
all the
have already
time.
had your experience and now I'm just here, or you're further along the line and you've already had this experience and now you're just like, oh God, I'm glad I'm not him this time. And we are all going through that collective experience and we're going to work our way through all 8 billion individuals on the planet, even though it's all happening at one time as we perceive it, but because time is not linear, most likely, that we can jump that way.
Hmm.
Wouldn't you want to live a better life for yourself? Wouldn't you want those circumstances to be better for you?
Totally.
Wouldn't you want to stop an injustice? Because ultimately, you're selfish. And that injustice will be perpetrated upon you because you will be in the shoes of that person that you didn't help, that you made a choice of, I don't want to.
I think about this all the time with people who are hateful and who like step on other people or have like really incredible judgments. It's like that could be something. I mean, I don't know how it works and I'm not the divine, obviously, but it's like, go ahead.
Aside, you open up a good one for me there. I am Jewish in this life. I have seen myself as Jewish in other lives, or as a Hebrew in other lives. I have seen myself as a Philistine. I have seen myself as an Egyptian while the Hebrews were enslaved. I feel like I've been on all sides of this conflict in one way or another. I'm just saying, and looking at it through an objective lens, not saying who's victim and perpetrator all the time, but
Mhm.
can we look at it from a higher vantage point and just say, we're humans, we're stupid. We should do better
Mhm.
because at some point, if we are believers in multiple lives
Mhm.
and multiple experiences, we're probably going to be living a life of poverty at some point.
Mhm.
We're probably
Oh
going to be
yeah.
living in a war zone at some point.
Oh
We're
yeah.
probably going to be in the role of saying, execute that person or don't execute that person. But that's where I think free will also comes in the equation. I don't think we are confined to a fate where everything is dictated. Every choice that we make is not our own. I think that's the beauty of this place that we find ourselves in. Such as something for astrology. I think we have the free will whether or not we want to utilize it. Or we have the free will to say, I don't believe in it. I'm never going to look at that. It's a load of crap. I think we have the free will to say, I don't want to look at past lives because it's painful for me, or I don't want to look at past lives because I think it's a load of crap, or I really want to look into past lives and other lives because I believe that we have lived in many places at many different points and in many bodies. And I want to know more about the totality of who I am. I think we have choice in these matters and in our charts, in our natal charts, in every life that we've ever lived. I believe in the higher and lower octave. I
Mhm.
believe that we all have the opportunity to make the choice to say, I want to live to the highest potential of this placement. Whatever that perceived placement is, I know we all have them in our charts where it's really difficult, where we could make different choices, or we could say, not today, sister, or not today, brother. I can do better. This may be difficult. I may be more inclined to head in that direction, but I can do better.
Totally.
That's the
1
choice that
million.
we have.
Totally. If we have a chart that shows selfishness, for an example,
Mhm.
like we can become aware that we have a tendency to focus on ourselves. How can we actively try to focus on the needs of other people? How can we actively try to be less selfish? If we have maybe a wandering eye in our birth chart where we get bored really easily, and when we're in a relationship, we start looking at other people, it's like we become aware of it. We can rein it in, we can have control, or it goes for a whole host of things. If you have it in your chart where you're a spender, and you spend a ton of money and you struggle with finances. It's like there is a pathway to learning more about finances, becoming more financially literate, learning more about investments. There is a gateway to work with that karma to start finding neutrality. Now, I do with astrology, it's like I think that there are karmas that can be totally worked with, and I do think that there are sticky karmas that are hard to change. And I'm not gonna lie. Like I think there
I
are
agree.
karmas that can change. I think there are karmas that we can move, and then I think there are karmas that are really stuck. And I think this my hypothesis is that the really stuck karmas are ones that are very old and like continue to kind of solidify in our frequency, for lack of better terms. And this is just my own thinking. This isn't
Maybe
based
every
on,
life you get to chip away at it.
yeah, this isn't based off of anything I've ever been taught. That's just like my speculation.
And if
So
I say something
yeah,
about that really quick?
yeah.
So even though I was just advocating on behalf of free will, that doesn't mean I don't believe in fate also. And that some events are just fated.
There are things we cannot control and there are things we can't avoid.
Exactly.
The time that I knew my car was going to break down and I spent a week with it in the shop doing everything in my power to make sure it didn't break down, I still broke down in the desert as I knew I would.
She
So
did.
it's like,
She told me about this before.
it's like, I was like, oh my God, no, I know what's coming. And I tried so hard to prevent it.
I
And
was like, oh, you decided to stay in New Mexico for an extra day?
no, I didn't. It was fun. It was fine. I made the best of it. But anyway, please.
That's it. That even though I'm a firm believer in free will, I think that there are some of those unavoidable moments in our lives that are just where the stage is set. And I think it's malleable, though, that everything will change based off of what our actions are. But there are those moments, those convergence points, I guess we could call them, where this thing is just going to happen. But then the free will comes into play with how do you deal with the aftermath of whatever that is? Do you stand up or do you sit down? Do you just give in? Or do you work with it? Do you grow from the experience, or are you a victim to that experience? Now, we can still call a spade and say, that sucked. That was horrible. It was wrong. It shouldn't have happened. Or that was awesome. But
And
higher,
something that
lower,
one of my favorite teachers, Raghunath, always says is that you can let it make you bitter or you can let it make you better. So for the karma that we can't change, it's how we deal with it, how we engage with it, and how it reverberates through our system energetically. Because I think that everything is a vibrational frequency. And so it's like when things are happening to us, how are we internalizing it? What's the story? The story and the narrative that we have in our mind creates our reality. And two people can be living a completely different reality. Someone can have a breakup and they could be like, you know what? I trust that the world is operating on my behalf and it's fine. Someone can have a breakup and it can traumatize them for 20 years.
mm-hmm.
And so it's about how we're the vibrational frequency, how we are engaging with our reality. And so I think that under many circumstances, I'm not talking about extreme circumstances, I'm talking about normal everyday life.
Yeah.
We have a lot of impact on the story that we tell ourselves and the reality that we choose to live in.
That's the other thing, is there's only so much we have control over.
Mm-hmm. So a few things that I wanted to mention, my dear friend Kaylee, something that he told me, because he is the person who introduced me to Krishna consciousness. And I had already started studying Vedic astrology, but he really introduced me to Vedic principles. And something that he had told me, because I was like, man, I wonder, what we were in previous lifetimes, because when we like met, we were just like instantaneous friends. And he said, he was like, what's interesting is that the way that I was taught is our best friends, our siblings that we love, like the people who come into our lives that we love, it's probably not someone that we've loved in a previous life. They were more likely our enemies, and they were paired with us in this life to neutralize the karma. And so that totally had an impact on how I view everything, because I always see my loved ones as like my kindred spirits, people who I've loved for so long. And like we're talking about, there's no way of actually proving any of this, but it did change the context for me. Like you and I could have been mortal enemies.
I'm sure one time we were. Sometimes I can't stand you.
So that was something that I wanted to say because I thought it was interesting. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about is on the note of hardship, because in the beginning, I kind of made this like established perspective of like good and bad. And I totally want to touch back on this. And I hope that people are still listening, because I feel like this is such a major thing to note, is that struggles can lead to gifts.
Mm-hmm.
Having challenge and turbulence can lead to really incredible gifts. I mean, this, my life early on was extremely challenging.
Oh, yeah.
And the challenges that I experienced are how I turned out to be the way that I am now. It was totally important building blocks for who I am.
Hmm.
Like the loss of my father was a huge catalyst for me becoming who I am. And so I think that that can also change context in the moment when we're experiencing a hardship, when we're experiencing a difficulty. Is it possible that there is a rainbow on the other side of this?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I agree. Just with what I said about sometimes it just takes me a little longer.
Mhm.
It allows me to master my craft. It allows me to become better. And I haven't hit that pinnacle yet for anything, but I can't say with certainty that once I hit that pinnacle, I would still be inclined to grow. I may be like, I got this. You know, my ego may take over, and maybe I wouldn't be as good as I could possibly be. So, as frustrating as it can be to hit those roadblocks and for things to feel like they are taking me much longer. I mean, I'll just give you guys another quick example. I could barely read till I was in high school. My reading comprehension was awful. And of course, when I was 15, I learned that I had a visual disability. And once I learned about that, I learned how to work with it. And by the time I was a senior in high school, my reading comprehension was off the charts. And then what happened? Oh, I became a writer. Oh, this thing I couldn't really do because, when you can't really read and have any comprehension, you can't really write. But that hardship created that space for me to then excel because I had to work a little bit harder at it.
Mhm.
And it wasn't just a given. So that's where our gifts, those positive aspects in our chart, I think they can get lost on us sometimes in any given life because it comes to us easy. And if we don't still foster those gifts, are we squandering opportunities?
Mhm.
And if we don't pay attention to those things because it was just too easy, because I think our natural human instinct is to focus on what's hard.
Mhm.
But if I let those gifts go away, are they going to be more restricted in other lives? And am I setting the stage for different incarnations right now by the actions that I have right now and the reverberations that will
Mhm.
inevitably be out there somewhere if it is cause and effect? And if right now my actions do matter to more than just me, and the reverberations go beyond me in a way that I will never, ever, 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 ever be able to see or comprehend the difference that I've made in the world from an action that I thought was so insignificant and the effect that it may have 1,000 years down the road in a way
Mhm.
that I didn't know.
Mhm. Totally. No, I think that's really beautiful and well said. And I think that there are people who can have really easy lives who come to really profound conclusions. Like, I don't want to say that, oh, if your life's been easy, you're not going to have gifts. I don't think that's true. But I do think that the vast majority of the time, when people are highly skilled in some way, they've had to fight really hard. And
Mm-hmm.
I also really love what you were talking about not letting the gifts bypass us or not be like noted or cherished because for the things that we don't actively have to work for, maybe we appreciate them less, which is a thing, right? It's like if you don't have to work for something, you typically appreciate it less. When you have to grind and sweat and then you finally get it, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to cherish this thing, right? But for the gifts that come easily for us in our lives, I think it's just as important to focus on those and appreciate them, which is why I think having a daily gratitude practice is so important, where we just think about every blessing in our life. It could be our character, how we view the world, our friends, our family, whatever it is, internally, externally, but really just taking time to think about the gifts that we were given in this life, because all of us have something that is very special and needed.
Yeah, I think I may need to change my ways on that one because I'm,
What?
well, I mean, like, could things be different? I haven't actually had a gratitude practice. I don't think I've ever really done that before. So now
Oh
I'm
man,
thinking if instead of watching It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia while I'm eating breakfast, if
which is good too.
and for 20 minutes after, if I could just sit down and have a gratitude practice, and
Yeah.
how would that change things, not only in this life,
Mm.
but in all the other lives? I don't know.
So good.
Worth trying though.
So awesome. I love it so much. I think it's totally revolutionized my life. I think of things that I'm grateful for in bed. Like when I wake up, I try to immediately chant to Krishna and then I try to immediately think of like things that I'm grateful for the day. Same thing at night. Just go to sleep thinking about things that I'm grateful for. It's like it totally changes the day. That's me personally. Some people it'll work, some people it won't, but
I've done really well at not saying anything stupid. So
Oh, geez. Oh my God,
No,
Daniel.
I don't have
Okay.
anything.
Okay,
No,
we're
nothing,
done. That's the end. That's the
nothing negative. I'm
conclusion
just
of the
thinking like,
podcast.
well, who would I, I don't know if it'd be Krishna or, Justin Timberlake or, I don't know why that was the first one that came to mind right now because I'm straight, but I was a jester in many lives. Can't you tell?
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yes.
with the little hat and the little bells and
I probably was too,
yeah.
honestly.
I
Yeah.
mean, here's the irony of this whole conversation, which I've massively enjoyed. Christine and I, we go deep like this sometimes. Then there are other times, like this morning, when I sent her a video of a gorilla. It was just like,
I think that's why you're like one of my favorite people ever, is because we can go really deep and talk about these super philosophical things. You're also a loyal ride or die. Like, I can count on you. And I respect you. And I think that you're artistically ingenious and I love your writing. And I think that you as a past life regressionist is like so talented. So there are lots of things about you that I also just like respect and admire, but also the ability to be ridiculously goofy, I need in my life. I really appreciate. So thank you.
this, you're welcome. This gorilla video was something else when I
You were
saw it
like,
earlier
this
in
is
the
me saying
morning.
yes.
Yeah, when Christine asked me if I wanted to do this today, I'm like, what the gorilla said, even though the gorilla said nothing about yes. But I had seen the video earlier. I thought about sending it to her, and then I went and tracked it down. I'm like, this is how I'm going to respond to this question right now.
Dude,
Took me a few
freaking
minutes,
awesome. You
but
sent
yeah.
me some of the craziest videos also. Just of all of my friends who send me things, yours are always the most unhinged. And I never know if it's going to be funny or if it's going to make me be like, what the heck am I? Sometimes I would say 1 out of 5 of the videos, I'm like, what did I just watch?
It's not bad stuff. It's just stuff where I sent it to her, and I want her to think, is he okay? Like, do I
I
need to
know,
be, do I
I
need to
know
be
you're
worried?
okay.
Nothing bad.
I
It's
never
not,
doubt
yeah.
if you're
It's none
okay.
of that stuff. It's just where can I take this to the next level? Because yeah, do I want to talk to her about metaphysics and the nature of reality? Sure. Then do I want to send her a video of a gorilla with stuff we're just not going to talk about? Again, nothing bad, but just stuff where, as approaching 40, I find it funny. A 12-year-old boy might find it funny too. But I'm also very down for rich humor and sophisticated humor. The dumb stuff is just funny too. But anyways, Christine, I wanted to give my gratitude practice for you also. I'm instituting it today. You are one of the most loyal friends I have. I have just grown so much having you in my life. You have been there for me through the good times, the hard times. When I need you, you're there. And you're an amazing friend. And I want to give everyone, sorry, just a little behind the scenes with Christine. This is Christine, like the Christine that shows up on Astrology Now podcast. This is her. There are other people I know in this space. I'm sorry, like this is not to. I'm not saying anything negative about anyone specifically, but some of the people I know are not what they appear to be. When they
Mm.
are one thing on their podcast or in front of a camera, and they're something completely different when they are not out there in the world on social media. Christine is not one of those people. Like what you
Aw.
see is what you get. The one thing I will say for Christine is that when she hits record, she turns it on. Like there is this presence that comes over her where she is just so grounded and focused. Like, cause I'll be on the phone and she'll be like, oh, I'm doing my dishes. And oh, playing with Madhu, whatever it may be. But when she presses record, it's like, I know this girl, but this is also not the girl I talked to on the phone last night.
Aw,
It's just there is this presence and this command
thank
that
you.
that just comes over her when she presses record. So I'm grateful to have you as a friend, and thank you for bringing me on. Everyone,
So grateful.
go rate Astrology Now 5 stars. Rate it 10 if you can. If I said something that offended you today, you can check out my podcast and give it a bad rating.
Oh
It's
my
not
God.
Christine's fault that I said anything right now.
No, it's fine. Everybody, we're all good. We're all friends here. We're
Check
all good.
out Time with Spirituality, and that's
Timeless spirituality.
my podcast.
Mhm.
And the pastliferegressionist.com is where you can book a session with me. I'm the Past Life Regressionist on Instagram, the Past
Mhm.
Life Regressionist on YouTube, the Past Life Regressionist. I'm Daniel, the Past Life Regressionist. Soon to be on TV screens everywhere. I'm putting it out there right now. This script that me and my buddy wrote, it is going to go places. I have other ones that are going to go places too. This is my non-humble moment. I have an amazing script about a past life regressionist that, while he has some of the characteristics of me, he's not me. I'm not that pathetic. And I'm also not that. I made him more cool, or more. I made him more pathetic and more cool than I am at the same time because he's a character. You got to have some contrast. And I got an amazing time travel script that just. I showed Christina a draft of it about 7 months ago. Christina's better since then. You don't need to read it again. It's okay. But yeah, the one
Love it.
that's picking up steam right now, I'm putting it
I
out
love
there in the
it.
world right now.
Rahu
Everyone,
Dasha,
you will be
what's
laughing
up?
your ass off at it.
Yeah, it's so great because I wanted to share about it and I wasn't sure if you were ready to talk about it or not, but I am just so over the moon for you. And y'all, I know that we're just like chatting as friends. We're almost done. We're going to wrap up. I am so excited for you and you have worked so hard for this. And I am so stoked for it to be on screen and for it to go places and for your hard work to pay off. You just entered your Rahu Dasha. 'Tis the season. We're ready to watch for growth. You've got a great Rahu. So I am
I got good Rahu.
I'm really, really looking forward. I'm really looking forward to see where it all goes. And I also just have to say, I have to name it. I love that every time we collaborate, it ends with us just being like, I just love you so much. You're my best friend.
You're the
It
best.
happens every time. Thank you for
It's like
coming.
when you're carrying your best home drunk from the bar.
When you're saying goodnight, it's like, you're the best. I love you.
It's closing time.
Well, keep us updated on what is happening with your script and the success of it. We're super looking forward to that. Again,
Thank you.
Timeless Spirituality is your podcast. Google Daniel, the past life regressionist, and everything will come up on Google. And I am Christine Rodriguez. My website is innerknowing.yoga. Instagram is astrologynow_podcast. And I do weekly horoscopes at patreon.com/astrologynowpodcast. Thank you so much, Daniel. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Thank
All
you,
right.
everyone. Fellow time travelers, your journey through time awaits you. Just want to thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. And if you're interested in discovering who, when, and where you have been throughout time, and you'd like to book a session with me, just go ahead and send me a message on Instagram at The Past Life Regressionist, or you can reach me through my website, yourpastliferegressionist.com.